So, hello everyone. I'm Jason Deere from Dice and Dragons, and I'm here with Ross Thompson from the Op Games, formerly Usaopoly, and we're going to be discussing some of their new releases and some of their old ones as well at the same time. So, Ross, why don't you just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do with the Op?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm glad we could do this and kind of a prep for virtual GenCon and all those things. So I'm Ross Thompson. I'm one of the marketing managers at the Op. I've been at the Op for a number of years. And the Op, we've been doing games for 26 years, all kinds of cool stuff. You may know us from like Telestrations or a lot of like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle or licensed monopolies and things like that. So we've got all kinds of cool games that are coming out. And this year's been pretty exciting from our game front.
I got my nice list of questions on my laptop here, so if anyone's wondering why I'm looking a little bit off camera, that's why. I've got, I'm dual wielding computers right now. So.
Dude, I'm in a similar boat, so it's all good. Welcome to the new Working at Home.
Yes. So I wanted to start with asking some questions about Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. That is definitely it's been a favorite of ours on Dice and Dragons. We've introduced a lot of people to the game. We even played with Julie's parents, and her mom insisted that we finish the game in one day. That was a long day.
Wow.
Yes. We planned to take a break at year 5, but we ended up completing year 6 and 7 as well. So
that's impressive.
It was a lot of fun. It was over the holidays last year. But I had some questions about the Charms and Potion expansion.
Cool. Let's get into it.
I was wondering, what was the real inspiration for this expansion? Like the previous one with the monsters, it was quite clear. It was a little bit from the Fantastic Beasts book, not the actual series, but the fact that they had the book on fantastical creatures in the films and in the series. So where does this one come from?
So that's a good question to ask. And so I'm going to kind of double do this, right? So getting ready for GenCon Online, we filmed a bunch of these panels where we're going to talk about the different stuff. So on the panels, one we did, we interviewed Cami Mandel, who's the main designer behind Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. And I asked her pretty much the same question about, hey, what was for Charms and Potions, what do you want to get into? And her main thing was that she wanted to make sure they could get enough characters that they wanted to in the base game, but because they couldn't put everybody in there, this allows for more characters to be a part of that. So like in the monster box, we added in Luna Lovegood. And then for this one, we get to add Ginny Weasley. Right, so more people have really been asking for a 5th player. They want to experience the story with more of their friends. So being able to add in a 5th character outside of like the core group really kind of puts more into that, right? So Luna was only kind of like an exchangeable character, but now Ginny is a true 5th, which is really cool. It also allows to kind of expand more into the wizarding world, right? Because we've all played through Hogwarts Battle, you're getting your allies and friends and spells, doing all these things. This kind of adds another layer to it. What's going to be fun is it adds a full new player board addition. So it's going to be going on over your player board, which will give you spaces for passive and new abilities with different spells, a whole place to kind of build potions and do a whole thing there. And then it adds 4 new games for you to play through. So it really kind of allows you to tell more within the movies and stories that goes through for Harry Potter. But this adds just that extra level for the Harry Potter fans that really want to dive deep.
That's fantastic. And why was Ginny Weasley the choice? I mean, it's fairly obvious why if you like watch the films, but there are many other characters that could have been chosen as well.
Who would you have wanted to see in there?
Can we mention why?
Yeah, totally. Well, so it's interesting, right? Because when you think about what characters are prominent in Harry Potter, right? Obviously, you've got Ron, Harry, and Hermione, which are the main 3, right? But then when you added Neville, it made sense to put him in. He's one of the guys that's been around since right at the beginning. You watch his growth right alongside them. He has the prophecy, essentially him and Harry kind of share that together, and he's got his own story you learn about him. So it made sense to have Neville in there. Luna, when she got added, it was like having another character that's involved. She's a big part of Dumbledore's army. And it adds more diversity to that. At the same time, bringing in Ginny, it brings in another cool character that everybody is kind of seeing grow up. You see her throughout each of the movies, or relative to each of the movies, and she's a big part of the story. So it's really cool that we can add another woman to the game and have her be a part of the stuff.
And one question that I have, are we going to see some rules that will maybe let us slim down that Hogwarts deck? Because it gets pretty large, especially with the sleeve cards.
It's a little big. You're not wrong. No, that's a good point. I'll bring it back to the designers. But this expansion, if anything, adds more to it. So
okay, so we're just going to see an expansion, nothing taken out. Because I know one thing that I have always wanted to see would be maybe some rules or some cards that could be removed as they're less useful as you pass through the story. I mean, we had one play when we were trying to beat Year 7 where we had all the Hogwarts dice in the bottom half of the deck.
Oof, that's rough.
Yes. So
yeah, it's that's something that I can definitely bring back to the team. It's kind of fun how people can mix and match. We also just released a solo play for Hogwarts Battle, and that kind of has you remove some cards out to kind of help it set up a little bit. So it's a lot of fun. I was able to play through and play through a few myself, so it was good.
Is this going to be the last expansion for Hogwarts Battle? Are we going to maybe see Fantastic Battle as you?
That's a good question. The Ministry of Magic has my lips sealed on that, right? So, but Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, we love supporting the game. The fans are really what makes the Wizarding world happen, right? It's all about how people, their own stories with the Wizarding world, and no one can take that away, right? So I think the more that we can add to that and how everybody experiences their Harry Potter is good.
I suspect we'll probably see something that continues the expansion. It seems like you're starting to run out of content for the Hogwarts portion of the battle.
I mean, you're into it. You know this, right? We may be on similar wavelengths here, so we'll have to see what happens.
Oh, very exciting. So you also have what was released, if I'm not mistaken, the day that we're filming this, July 22nd, we have Harry Potter, the House Cup competition.
Yeah, so I've got it right back here. So it's super cool. So it's designed by Nate Heiss, and Harry Potter House Cup competition is a game where you are finally just going to school. There's no battling Voldemort or Death Eaters or any of that stuff. It's just them learning, going to class, taking their newts, and doing all these things. So you're playing as the different houses. So Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor. And what you're doing is you've got 3 students for each household. So like with Hufflepuff, you've got like Sister Diggory, Ravenclaw, you've got Luna and Cho Chang. Gryffindor, obviously, you've got the trio. So what you do in this game is you're going to be taking their tokens and putting them out for the different classes. So you're going to different classrooms, different offices, different locations around the Hogwarts campus, and essentially they're going to be raising up their stats in charms, potions, and defense against the dark arts. So as they go to each location, they'll raise their stat up by 1 or 2, which will then give them more abilities. On the whole player board, there's a sliding Hogwarts crest token. It's a double layer board, which is really nice. It allows you to slide in. And that'll give you different abilities you can track to then at the end of each round, you have these easy and hard challenges that you're going to be competing for. And it's things like finish your newt, make the Quidditch team. So it's going to go, oh, cool, if you've got 2 charms, 2 magic, and 1 defense against the dark arts, you can complete that. And then when you turn that in and you've completed it, you get points for your gems. And so essentially what we've got is we have these cool vials that have little pieces for all the different households. And so as you score 10 points for Gryffindor, and those points go into the
that's cool.
The vials, and it goes up. So like at the beginning, you can still kind of see what's going on around because there's 7 rounds in the game. So like rounds 3 to 4, it starts, okay, who's getting what, and it goes up and up as you gain more points, which is really cool.
So does this game have a lot of player interaction, or is this more of a low player interaction game where you're competing with the other players, but you may not have necessarily as much take that?
There's not any take that in this game. Like what's going on essentially is you are taking locations that they maybe would have wanted to take, right? So the player interactions are, oh, I want that space before you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so mainly, if there's going to be something that's like take that, it'd be potentially maybe doing some denial if you don't have a great action, but nothing that's really going to drive somebody up the wall.
No, you're not doing any cards. But also, if you were like the Hogwarts staff that have to get involved, you might get detention. You don't want any of that.
No, we don't want to get into detention. I mean, no. The characters often just left detention, but
yeah, and there's no card where Dumbledore comes in and gives Gryffindor the win at the end. we did play test with that, but we decided not to have that in the game. So
I think you should house rule it, or that could be a nice convention. Come to
right.
the get the Gryffindor automatically wins card as a nice joke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here's the double door slide into the thing there. It's so funny.
Yeah. So next, I wanted to talk about the Rising series
Cool.
of games, because we're definitely fans of the game here on Dice and Dragons. We own all of them. We actually managed to get a copy of Star Wars Dark Side Rising.
Ooh, congratulations.
So little hint, we have a review that we're going to release probably at a later date.
Great.
But if you're looking to get it and you're watching this video, Amazon.com is selling it through Amazon UK, and it's actually cheaper to buy on .com than to buy directly from UK. Saved us actually about $20 to $30 on that. So there's a way
there
to
we
get
go.
it.
That's from your mouth, not mine. But there you go. So
we'll let fans of the games know where they can get it.
The game is, if you can get your hands on it, it's so cool. It's got all new art for Star Wars. You're playing in like that Rogue One era. So you've got characters from Rogue One and Rebels and Episode 4 all doing their stuff. It's beautiful. I love it.
So where did the idea of this as a series of games come from? We started with Thanos Rising, and with how brutal that one can be, especially if you're playing 4 players and you get that bad roll at the end. You can just watch an entire team get decimated, which actually happened to me.
It happens all the time.
It was the one combination on the dice. It was, if I get this one, we lose. If I don't get this one, we win the game. And of course, it actually, Thanos and Proxima Midnight eliminated 10 heroes in one shot.
Oh, jeez. Wow. That's a snap.
Yeah, that was definitely, it felt like the snap. So very thematic, but I loved it. I felt that it worked very well with Avengers, especially Avengers Infinity War. Why did you start doing more games like Dark Side Rising and Death Eaters Rising?
And so one of the cool things that we really enjoy with our games is we like being able to tell thematic stories and then make it for a cooperative experience. And the Rising games really provide a really fun way to have a villain that everybody knows and could tell a whole story, and then have a lot of different characters you can engage with, have locations you can go to, and then have a cool way for everybody to work together against a common goal. And then on a personal note, it's just fun rolling dice. Like, I love rolling dice and getting all the different games on there. So with Rising games, we can do that. We have 2 new ones that are coming out this year too, with the Batman Who Laughs, where it's going to be all about the dark universe. And then we have one that I'm super excited for, which is going to be SpongeBob Plankton Rising. So it's going to be SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh, yeah. So in that one, you're going to be in the Krusty Krab, and Plankton, who's on the chum bucket with his whole Thanos pose, is trying to come in and steal the Krusty Krab recipe. So you have to work against him with Sally and Squidward and Patrick and SpongeBob, and you are also preparing meals. So no one's taking damage in this game. No one's getting hurt. All the customers that are coming in to order burgers, they're getting frustrated that you haven't completed their order yet. So that's all the little they're going down there. But yeah, I think the cool thing about the Rising games, and like our deck building games too and stuff like that, is that we really enjoy being able to kind of share and bring these thematic stories from all these different IPs, from Harry Potter and Star Wars and Marvel, and put them onto the tabletop in a way that's engaging for everybody, and not just like hardcore gamers or casual gamers. They have a nice kind of in between, which is really cool.
We've played the Rising games with people that are not necessarily hardcore gamers, and we played all of them. Thanos is a little bit of a special place in our heart because we love the Marvel Universe. I think the one that we enjoyed the most, though, was Harry Potter Death Eaters Rising, where I found that there was a lot of small changes to the game, but enough that it actually feels like you're playing something that's different enough that I can totally see having both of them in the collection. So why did you go with the Batman Who Laughs Rising? Why not just like Joker Rising or something else? I find it interesting that you decided to pick the Dark Universe. Now, it's cool. The storyline and the idea of the character are awesome. I just wasn't something that I was expecting to see from a Batman Rising game.
Well, so it's interesting, right? Because Batman is it's a wide depth of stories you can tell with Batman, right? He's been around for so long and all the different things. And we had a lot of fun doing our Talisman Batman last year with the Super Villains edition, right? Where everybody's going around and you're playing as the villains. But with Batman, he has so many, his rogues gallery is really iconic. which is really cool. So we could have done a thing like the Joker or Two-Face or Freeze or Poison Ivy. But we talked about it, and it's kind of fun to do something new. Like there's Batman's got some new stories that are going on. The DC Metal and Dark Universe stuff is playing a really big part of a lot of their current stories, and the characters are really neat. So it let us kind of have a way of not just making another Batman game, but now we're making a Batman game that has something new that hasn't really been touched on yet. So we were happy to be able to kind of be a part of that universe on the tabletop.
Fantastic. So we know that there's Batman Who Laughs. We've got SpongeBob coming. Anything else coming from the Rising series?
That's it right now. So you're going to have to get in there and roll some dice and see if you can save the day.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break right now for about a few seconds, just so that Ross and I can get a drink of water, and then we'll continue the interview.
That sounds great.
All right, and now we're back. We're going to continue our discussion about some recently released games from the op and some forthcoming games from the op. And one thing I did really want to ask, because the word licensed game for the longest time was a very dirty word in the gaming industry, whether it was board games, video games, like any kind of game. You get a licensed product and people would instantly know that it's just not good. Well, I got to say the op has definitely succeeded in producing some high quality and really fun licensed products. What do you think your success is in that regard, doing something that for the longest time was just like unthinkable, a good game?
That's a really good question. And it's been really fun to kind of see where that's gone in the last few years as more licensed games come out there. I think one of the things that we do and we really pride ourselves on doing is making sure that we're telling a good story and that we're making a good product. We make a lot of different products with licensed games, from co-brands to our own IP, like own game engines to different stuff. And we really want to make sure that we're putting something on the table that people are going to enjoy, they're going to want to play, they're going to want to share, that licenses are going to want to be a part of, and they're going to want to be happy that they have a game with their IP on it. And we want to make something that people really want to play and enjoy. Like we've already talked about it, but like Thanos Rising was a really good example of a way the game came out right at the right time when Infinity War had hit, Endgame hadn't come out yet. You know, it was a way for you to play with this whole MCU cast that you've gotten to know over the last few years. The game quality was unique. It was fun. It would let you kind of tell a really cool story and have a nice Thanos piece to it, right? With the Harry Potter games, we've kind of allowed and really kind of explored that whole medium on the tabletop with different ways, from our deck building games and dice throwing games. So we like that we can kind of tell these stories and get to do these things. With Die Hard last year, we already got to tell Die Hard on the tabletop and do this whole thing. We did Evil Below last year, where it was a cool jump scare game that kind of captured all these things. So we've got a lot of passionate people that work at the op that are very excited that we get to be a part of these stories and create that in a tabletop environment. And at the same time, games are for everybody, even if they don't know it yet, right? And everybody likes playing games. And a lot of the times, even though we kind of have our audience that we pitch to, and with the board game industry, it's growing and growing and growing, but at the same time, everybody can be a gamer. And it's fun that we can use a lot of these IPs to kind of reach new people and introduce them into gaming, which is really cool.
That's a great example, and you've definitely succeeded in making some great licensed products. And thanks for doing that. Thanks for making licensed games not a dirty word like they used to be. And there's definitely other publishers that are doing it as well. But I gotta say, I do enjoy, and as does my wife Julie, the family-friendly nature of all these games. We're able to get them to the table with a wide variety of people that just love the IP and may not necessarily be gamers themselves. And
that's great.
That's a big selling feature for us when it comes to deciding to add these games to our collection.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
And then the last thing that I really wanted to talk about was Court of the Dead. Now, definitely something that was very different for you guys. Now, we almost backed the original Kickstarter as we play a lot together, and competitive games and semi-co-op games often result in some frayed feelings. So it was one that we actually we didn't pick up for the moment, but that was something very different for the op. Where did that project come from? And I know it's an original IP. Is it your IP? I can't remember. Or is it?
So that's our partnership with Sideshow Collectibles. And
so it's Sideshow Collectibles that owns the IP.
Yeah, it's their own IP. So Tom, who's the creator and founder of Sideshow, he is just a creative guy, and he's got so many cool stories and art that he's been able to put out there. And Court of the Dead is his own IP. I could go into the whole story about it. I love Court of the Dead's great. And they've been able to do a lot with that from the brand, from statues and games and other venues for telling that story. And so we were very lucky to be able to partner with them for Court of the Dead and do the Kickstarter a couple of years ago. Pat Marino was the main designer for that game. He was our team, so it's all a brand new engine. And he worked with Sideshow the whole way through to kind of like build their story and do these things, which was fun because it was their IP with Sideshow. There were some things that hadn't been explained yet, so they were able to kind of share more of that story through the board game, which was great. And it's a cool game. It's got that nice like area control on the board. It's very thematic because you've got all the different factions that are vying for power within the underworld. So as you're playing through and getting different agents to join in your side or send them over to go fight somebody else. So it has that cool back and forth ability. The game's like 3 hours, maybe you get like 2 hours depending on how you're going around with it. But it's got a really good story and feel to it, and it's just a really beautiful tabletop piece to it. It's just the boards has that fantastic finish on it. It's just a good piece of art. Also,
I love the colors and the miniatures as well. I feel like a few people were surprised when you guys were putting it out and they saw the quality of the miniatures, because it's just something that's very different than your usual fare.
Yeah, it was definitely, we got to put ourselves to the test, right? So we don't normally do a lot of big things that are like that, and it definitely tested all different teams here at the Op. But really, with pairing up with the Sideshow and how their art and story is, and then working with our team to design all the different stuff, it was just a really good match, and it came out with a really good product.
Is there anything more that we can expect from Court of the Dead coming from the Op in the near future?
Not from the Op. So we've got our Court of the Dead Mourner's Call, and it's currently out on shelves. You can get it, so you should do that.
Excellent. I think that covers everything that I had that I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this conversation, or else anything that you feel that the viewers should know as to what's coming up? Maybe even some, if you can't tell anything, but maybe a date that they should make sure that they look at your Twitter feed or something like that?
So we've pretty much previewed everything we have coming out this year. We've got a couple things that we haven't like fully gone into. Like we still have some more previews for a couple of our games that haven't released yet. So I would always say stay tuned to our social media channels at the Op Games on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff for GenCon Online. We have Comic-Con this week, so we have a whole thing called the Op at Home. We filmed a bunch of panels that are on our YouTube channel. We filmed a bunch of cool demos that are also on our channels there, so people can learn more about our games and about us. We have some really cool deep dive panels that we've filmed talking with the different designers about our games and how games are made, and about more of the questions you asked about, like why pick these characters and how is co-op and licensed stuff. So we have some really cool conversations about those kind of things, which is made for some really cool stuff. We have a lot of great things that are going on. I really appreciate the kind words you said about how your game night plays that. We feel the same way. We like that we can make games that we can bring home to play. So I would just say stay tuned. Follow us. We're going to keep making fun games and telling cool stories. So
well, we'll definitely be keeping up with what you're doing, especially with new Harry Potter stuff coming in the near future, potentially some other Rising games, and also if there's any promos, because there's been some cool promo cards for the Rising games.
There have.
Have to make sure especially if there's some Batman ones, don't want to miss out on those characters, especially with, as you mentioned, how large the Rogues Gallery is, and also all the crazy versions of Batman from the Dark Knight's Metal.
Oh, yeah, it's super cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and it's great talking to you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again in the future.
I'd love that. That'd be great. Let me know.